Hello and welcome to the Quebber channel. I am Jason, your host, and we're on our way to the hospital again for my evening check-up for my mum. It's, how can I put it, kind of melancholy at the moment. My brain is. Coping strategies. We're going to talk about coping strategies. You see, we all know I have many coping strategies set up to look after me, to cope with all of this. I need coping strategies all the time for every single thing, because I don't get to just shut it away by distracting myself normally. I need very specific things like computers, technology. I need to make sure that at all times I've got layers of coping strategies, one on top of another, so that if one fails, if I don't have one for some reason, if for some unknown reason I no longer can use a specific kind, that something else can take over. Because for me, for a normal person, although I hesitate to use that because none of us are really normal, but for a standard person, if they have events that their coping strategies can't handle, they might get depressed, they might get upset, they might have a bad day, they might get distracted, they might miss an appointment, they might have minor issues. If I don't get my coping strategies working, I can end up in the hospital or in the morgue. That's the difference. I have, with bipolar type 2 and with all the other issues, my coping strategies are a difference between life and death. And the fact that they work so well, and like someone noticed just today when I was on Discord while I was on, that my actual demeanour has improved. Because I'm always depressed. I always have depression. There's no getting around it. I always have depression. But the mobile scooter, because it's given me a way outside my house, because it's given me a new, completely expanded the entire universe, it has made a massive difference. It's a whole new set of coping strategies. I can get around a lot of my old issues and triggers about being trapped in the house and basically dying in my house alone and never being outside, and all these kind of things that are there all the time. Because remember, once something's in my head, it doesn't go away. I've always got it there. So, coping strategies. So this new layer of coping strategies, this Quingo, this thingy, people who know me, who've seen me on thingy, I don't have to tell them that this is doing well. They've actually noticed, they've perceived it themselves, the change in my demeanour and change in my brain has a new level of energy. I'm not as exhausted because I've got all the layers of coping. Because coping strategies take effort. For example, let's think about how I used to go out. How I used to leave the house. When I had to leave the house, this was a very rare occurrence. Maybe, I think I calculated about 27. I left the house about 27 times in 4 years. Mainly for hospital visits, for CAT scans and things like that, and or hospital visits, or maybe a bank visit. I never left my house to go somewhere for fun. I never left my house to go on a journey, to go to a local park, to go to a fair, to go to a shop to pick up food. I never left my house for the normal stuff, for the everyday things. And for the fun things like going to a event in town or anything like that, never happened. So back then, how I would cope is this. I would create a quest line. The object of the quest was to get to wherever I had to get to. The quest was either to get to the doctors, to see the doctor, and then I'd create an entire artificial simulation of my world, having to deal with NPCs, having to deal with everything. Just want to check something. And within that I would write scripts in my head to deal with NPCs. What do I mean by NPCs? Anybody who would come up to me outside the house, anyone that came up to me outside my safe space, anybody who would talk to me, anybody who would interact with me, even if it was just a smile, I had to have a way of coping with that to deal with it. I had to cope with all the chances of triggering PTSD out there. I had to cope with them, and I had to layer up and layer. It took usually days beforehand to create these layers, to build it all up. And it would completely exhaust me. And even if it was only a 10-minute go to the doctors, I would be wrecked for the rest of the week, because the amount of mental acuity to create such a full-size simulation of my world was almost beyond what it's capable of. And it never worked 100%. Sometimes I would use augmented glasses to help. Sometimes I would use my audio books to help, my noise cancelling headphones to help. All these things would be added on top and added on top to create layers to try and protect me for leaving the house. Just to leave the house for 10 minutes for a blood test or for a doctor's appointment if they couldn't come out to me. That was how I existed outside the house. Because I was away from my safe space. I was away from my safe house. Oh, a train. So now let's look at me. Now let's look at the possibilities. I now take my safe room with me. My 99% anchor is the Quingo, is what I'm on here at this moment in time, with my hands on the handlebars, physically connected to a safe space. So now, I'm going to shut this down now and I'll do a part 2.